Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Links are in the description below. Please show some love of the author and me. On to the show. After mutating the units, Lin Yu's magic power is only about 40,000. And the main body of his proliferating arms has also changed from the original 85 to 92. Excluding the armored moss that does not have many individual combat capabilities, it is exactly 90 combat units, and the number will quadruple after complete division. It can be said to be an extremely large force. But unfortunately, because of the death of the split body, those bodies that stayed in the territory also lost a lot of energy, and there is no way to proliferate a lot for the time being, so they can only be raised in the territory first. Fortunately, his new holy relic has the effect of speeding up recovery. Coupled with the healing of the lantern grass in the territory, it should be able to recover quickly. In general, although Lin You suffered heavy losses in this space fisher battle, his gains were still huge. I just don't know how the other lords are doing. Thinking of this, Lin You turned on the regional channel and checked it out. Go. The monster I managed to repel, the crack reward was robbed. The same is true for me. There are many lords here, and they are all robbing people. You will be happy. There is a large crack near my territory. Fortunately, there is an 8th order boss, otherwise the territory will not be guaranteed. Fuck, 8th order boss? I also met a high-level boss. They seem to be robbing the rewards of large-scale cracks. Is the bigger the space crack, the better the reward? Isn't this nonsense? For those space cracks that exceed 100 meters, the rewards are much better than ordinary cracks, but they are more difficult. It can be seen that because of the large number of space cracks, the lords have invested in the competition for resources. After observation, Lin You also found out. Those low-level lords encountered space cracks, and basically only 6th or 7th order monsters appeared, and 8th order monsters rarely appeared. Could it be that the border of his principality is a disaster-prone area? Or did those 8th order monsters choose to break through from here when they sensed that there were too many chickens on the border of the principality? Lin You was very helpless. If it weren't for his strength, he would have been overwhelmed by the army of monsters led by the thousand-faced vine. At the same time, I also deeply felt the cruelty of competition. Obviously, at the same time as the resources are put in, they are also screening the lords. Only the lords who can survive the danger have the value of cultivation. Otherwise, no matter how much, I will go to the battlefield of 10,000 realms to deliver vegetables, and I will be cheap for the lords of other realms. After watching the regional channel and the world channel for a while, Lin You came to the Tree of Life to check the building condition. It was exactly as he expected. After all the basic buildings in Huangsha City were upgraded to Tier 2, the daily revenue was significantly higher. Deduct miscellaneous expenses. There are still 400 or 500 magic crystal income left. Except for the 6th order practice field. The most popular one is to build the equipment blacksmith shop. Every day, many cultivators go there to build equipment with the monster materials they just hunted back, which surprised Lin You very much. It seems that we need to hurry up and recruit a high-level blacksmith to come over. Lin You couldn't help but whisper softly. His current palm in the blacksmith shop is a 3rd order blacksmith dug from Yuan City. It is good to help build equipment below Tier 3, but not for Tier 3 and above. It can't attract high-level practitioners at all. At that time, wouldn't it be necessary to go to other territories to find someone to build it? That doesn't work. Considering the future development, Lin You immediately called Su Zhong and asked him about the craftsman. Lord wants to ask, where can I recruit high-level craftsmen? Su Zhong, who came in a hurry, said respectfully. Well. Lin You nodded, do you have anything to introduce? I can't tell you the introduction, but my subordinates heard that there seems to be a dwarf tribe living in the volcanic area in our neighboring country, the Principality of Tianyan. And its forging ability is unparalleled. Dwarf tribe? Lin You asked in surprise. Are there still dwarfs in this world? But after thinking about it, he had even seen spirit creatures when he was in the battlefield of 10,000 worlds, and it seemed not surprising that dwarves appeared. Most importantly, their forging ability is very strong. Isn't that exactly what he wants? Out of curiosity, he continued, tell me about the situation over there, I want to know more about it. Yes. In this way, Su Zhong began to tell Lin You everything he knew about the dwarf tribe. Until more than 10 minutes later, Lin You Kai finally had a general understanding of this tribe. Basically, the dwarves in this world are not much different from the dwarves he knows well, and they are all good at forging. And he likes peace and doesn't like interacting with foreigners. Just like nature's darling elves. Even for historical reasons, foreigners are somewhat excluded. This is a bit difficult to do. What method can I use to deceive a high-level dwarf craftsman? Lin You rubbed his chin while thinking. Tianyan Kingdom is very close to the Great Wilderness Principality. There is only an endless mountain range and a huge rift abyss. But the problem is, now the king of Tianyan Kingdom has not been established, and the principality is in turmoil. He went rashly now, not knowing if he would encounter any danger. Forget it, wait until tomorrow to check the situation. In the end, Lin You decided to go over and take a look first. After all, a strong craftsman is very important to the development of Huangsha City, and it should not be sloppy. It's really impossible to run back. Anyway, his demon king dragon can fly. As long as he doesn't run into a lord with flying arms above the 7th rank, he should be fine. Making up his mind, he immediately began to prepare in the territory. In the blink of an eye, the next morning arrived. After a night's rest, the plants in Lin Yu's territory finally recovered, and a large number of troops proliferated again. There are more than 300 and nearly 400 arms, almost filling the entire territory. Part of it spreads out, wandering in the vine forest outside the territory, and by the way, it can also protect the territory. And when the sky just dawned, a reminder suddenly sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Congratulations, you won the 394th place in the Principality ranking, Tier 6, with a reward of 50,000 mana. Leaderboard reward? Lin You paused as he walked down the stairs. He had forgotten that the rankings were settled once a month. Now count the time, he has been here for almost a month. It's a pity that because of the loss of several 7th order arms, his ranking is not too high, and he only received rewards in the range of 100 to 1000. But that's fine. He is currently lacking mana, and the 50,000 mana is enough to solve his immediate needs, and it is enough to do a lot of things. Take your mind off. Immediately summon one each of Lingxi, the Mushroom Demon King, and the Demon King Dragon and Concubine Dragon, together with 2 elves who can heal in groups. After a simple preparation, he flew away from the territory in a whistling wind. He rushed in the direction of the Principality of Tianyan. Popular recommendation. This trip is mainly to recruit dwarf craftsmen. Therefore, it is not advisable to set out with too many troops. Moreover, Lin You also learned from the people below that there was a huge rift between the Tianyan Principality and the Great Wilderness Principality, which stretched for thousands of miles and completely separated the two principalities. It is basically impossible for ordinary arms to want to pass. As predicted, when Lin You spent more than an hour, he came to the depths of the mountains. A bottomless rift appeared in front of him, nearly 500 meters wide. Above the rift valley, a howling wind was blowing, forming a powerful air turbulence in the air. Be careful, don't get caught by the turbulence. Lin You explained to the plants around him. Then, immediately let the Demon King Dragon carrying him fly high into the sky, avoiding the place where the turbulent current is the strongest. The other plants followed him closely, trying to resist the gust of wind. In a blink of an eye, 1 person and 6 troops rushed into the wind belt, and was instantly wrapped in the turbulent current, with a whirring sound constantly blowing in his ears. The book chasing app recommended to me by an old book friend who I have known for 10 years, Mimi read. It's so easy to use, I rely on this reading aloud to pass the time before driving and before going to bed. You can download it here. Looking down, you can even see the inside of the bottomless rift. If you fall from here, you will definitely be shattered, and there is no room for negotiation. Fortunately, Lin You was carrying all 7th Order troops. At full speed, he was still able to barely stabilize his body. However, within a dozen or so breaths, he rushed out of the turbulent flow, and on the other side of the Rift Valley, he finally entered the territory of the Principality of Tianyan smoothly. Okay, move on. With Lin Yu's order, the Demon King Dragon accelerated again and flew towards the territory of the Principality. Another hour later, the continuous mountain range below finally turned into an endless desert that stretched out towards the end of the line of sight. In the distance, you can even see a lot of 6th and 7th Order monsters on the run, and a few monsters gathering places surrounded by magic energy. But Lin Yu didn't come this time to hunt monsters. After confirming the direction, the Demon King Dragon flew over the place where the monsters gathered, causing the monsters below to roar. What's the matter? Why are the nearby monsters going crazy? In the distance, a lord with wild bear troops and a few cultivators looked around suspiciously. They had just arrived here and were preparing to destroy the monsters, but they didn't expect the surrounding monsters to suddenly riot, which made them vigilant. Lord, look! Something is flying over from the sky. Suddenly, one of the practitioners shouted in shock. The others looked up in the direction he pointed, and they found 2 huge black shadows whistling towards them. The speed was so fast that they came to a place where they were less than 100 meters away in a blink of an eye. This is a 7th Order unit. The Lord let out a low cry, and his face changed dramatically. He was carrying only 4 7th Order troops with him now, and all those who were flying towards them at this time were all 7th Order troops. Even the strange mushroom on the back of one of the plant dragons exudes a might that is far more powerful than the 6th Order. A full 6 7th Order arms. 2 more than him. It forced him to summon all the troops and subordinates immediately and put on a posture to meet the enemy. But what he didn't expect was the 7th Order troops just passed over their heads as if they hadn't noticed them, and left them behind in a blink of an eye. This. Several practitioners opened their mouths, their faces full of astonishment. Together with the Lord, they were extremely surprised, completely unable to understand what happened. And just when they were stunned. At this time, Lin You had already taken his troops to the outskirts of the desert. With the advantage of high altitude, he could already see a row of densely packed volcanoes in the distance. Sure enough, it is a match with the country of fire. However, it is different from the Fire Kingdom. The volcanoes in Tianyan Kingdom seem to be alive, and they are continuously erupting a large amount of magma and thick fog, dyeing the whole sky gray. Even the territory of the Principality is gloomy and looks very dark. Something is wrong. Lin Yu's expression gradually became serious. He remembered that Su Zhong once said when he introduced Tianyan Kingdom to him that Tianyan Kingdom, like Liuhua Kingdom, was basically an extinct volcano and rarely erupted. But the current situation is that all the volcanoes are constantly erupting, and the whole air is filled with a strong smell of sulfur. Such a harsh environment. I don't know, I thought it was the end of the world. Is it because of the fall of the king, there is no 10th Order check and balance? Lin Yu was puzzled. Seeing that the erupting volcanoes were getting closer and closer to him, and more sparks bursting in the sky, he had to let the Demon King Dragon land on the ground and fly at a low altitude. Not for a while. They left the desert and plunged into the volcanic zone. Boom! At this time, a nearby volcano just erupted. A powerful magma rushed into the sky, causing the surrounding ground air to vibrate violently. Then the magma quickly cooled and agglomerated in the air, turning into a stream of fire and rain meteors and smashed down frantically, making a booming explosion. Speed up. Get out of here first. Lin Yu shouted, and immediately took the plants to avoid the lava and shuttled through the thick smoke. As long as he couldn't avoid it, he was controlled by Ling Xi's magic technique, or pulled away by Yao Feilong's rose, and nothing went wrong along the way. But at this time, Lin Yu saw a figure with sharp eyes, collapsed on the mountainside of an erupting volcano in the distance. It seemed to be smashed to the ground by a rock that fell from the sky, and it was about to be submerged by the billowing lava left on the top of the mountain. You reading www.yuukansha.com. Originally, Lin You didn't intend to meddle in his own business. But if you look closely, the figure is actually much shorter than ordinary people, wearing armor and carrying a huge hammer on his back. Isn't it the dwarf that Su Zhong described to him? Quickly go over and save him. Under the surprise, Lin You couldn't care too much. Immediately let the demon king dragon fly over, and at the moment when the figure was about to be swallowed by the magma, he rescued it and put it on the back of the demon king dragon. Then quickly flew away from the volcano. Luckily, I caught up with. Lin You glanced at the hot lava that was surging frantically behind him, and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, his eyes couldn't help but look at the dwarf in front of him. It was exactly as he remembered, only about 1 meter tall, but with a very mature face and beard. Even the body and limbs are very strong, and it looks like a sledgehammer. It's really hard to find a place to break through the iron shoes, and it takes no effort to get it. He was just thinking about how to get in touch with the dwarf tribe. I didn't expect the opportunity to come so soon. He saved their clan by himself, so the dwarf clan couldn't keep him out, right? Thinking of this, Lin You couldn't help laughing proudly. The dwarf who was in a coma seemed to sense something, his body trembled, and he slowly woke up under the healing light of the elves. He raised his head and looked around blankly. When he saw that he was in the air, nearly tens of meters above the ground, his eyes popped, his legs kicked, and he fainted again. Lin You. I am special. Are dwarves afraid of heights? Popular recommendation. What did you say? You were kicked out by the tribe. The shout, which was about to break the eardrum, suddenly sounded at the foot of a mountain. Lin You looked at the dwarf sitting in front of him with astonishment on his face, his expression extremely ugly. Just now, he brought the dwarf to the ground, and it took a lot of effort to wake him up. As a result, the dwarf actually told him. I was kicked out of my tribe. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood on the spot. So you went to the volcano to commit suicide because you were kicked out? Lin You stretched out his hand to rest on his forehead, looking like he was gnashing his teeth. I thought it was an opportunity to build relationships, but I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Although the dwarf also felt embarrassed, he explained with a blushing face, don't talk nonsense. I didn't commit suicide, I just thought of finding flame crystals on the volcano to create a sacred object for the dwarves. Recommendation: Mimi reading and chasing books is really easy to use. Download it here and you can try it. The holy relic of the dwarves? What is that? Lin You looked at him again. That is. The dwarf opened his mouth subconsciously, but immediately, he reacted and looked at Lin You vigilantly. Why are you asking this? Do you want to inquire about the secrets of our dwarves? Originally, dwarves were very repulsive to humans. But because Lin You saved him, he was relatively friendly to Lin You, but he still didn't let go of the defense against aliens in his heart. Even if he has been kicked out of the tribe, nothing has changed. Obviously. It is not an easy thing to gain the trust of the other party. Lin You thought for a moment, then said, to tell you the truth, I just need a craftsman there. I heard that your dwarves are very good at crafting, so I came here to see if you have been kicked out. Are you interested in me? Where to go? As long as you want, I will try my best to meet any conditions. Lin You said these words with his own considerations in it. Since I want to recruit talents, it is naturally best to treat people with sincerity. And the name of the dwarf sacred artifact is not easy to hear. Since the guy in front of him can make this kind of thing, his forging ability is definitely not weak, and he will earn it if he recruits it. Unfortunately, however, in the face of his conditions, the dwarf was unmoved. Human, although you saved my life, I'm very sorry, I still have my own mission and can't leave here with you. What mission? Lin You asked. If possible, I might be able to help you. You want to help me? The dwarf was a little surprised. That's natural, but the condition is that you have to go back with me. The corners of Lin Yu's mouth cocked slightly. It's the first time I've seen such a rambunctious human being. The dwarf shook his head helplessly. But I like your frankness. It's a pity that even if you want to help me now, it's probably too late. It's too late? Why? You should have seen that now. The entire Tianyan kingdom has basically been covered by erupting volcanoes, and even the underground community of our dwarves has been implicated and is facing destruction. I can't abandon my clan at this time. The dwarf's voice was very low, and there was even a trace of unwillingness. I originally wanted to call my compatriots to move out of the community and flee to a safe place, but the elders wanted to stick to the community and expelled them from the community on the charge of causing trouble to the compatriots. Now only the sacred artifact of the dwarves, the Hammer of the of War, was created. Can I call my kin to leave that dangerous place? So you thought of finding materials on the volcano to create sacred objects of the dwarves and take them out of the community? Lin You replied. That's right, I don't want my kin to die in the volcano, so I have to build the god of war's hammer. The dwarf's gaze was very firm. He didn't even harbor resentment toward his tribe for being expelled. Such sincere heart has strengthened Lin Yu's determination to recruit. He immediately asked, then tell me, what do you need to build this sacred object? I'll see if I can get it for you. I have everything else, but now there is only one material that contains the essence of flame. The stronger it is, the better. Material containing flame essence? Lin Yu was stunned for a moment, suddenly thought of something, and asked for a while, then if it is a lotus growing in magma, can it work? Of course it works. Treasures like this one growing in magma have the best effect, and my chances of success will increase a lot. Have you ever seen such a thing before? Said the dwarf in surprise. It seems, there is indeed a. Really? Where is it? Take me to see it. The dwarf grabbed Lin Yu's arm and his eyes widened. Treasures like this flame are extremely rare even in the primitive continent. Although he didn't quite believe that Lin Yu had such a thing, he was unwilling to let go of any chance. Lin Yu didn't expect his reaction to be so violent, and then said, it's a lotus flower that I accidentally got before, and it's in my territory. Hearing the words, the dwarf said excitedly, can you take me to see it? As long as the hammer of the god of war can be successfully built, I can promise you no matter what the conditions are. That's what you said, I didn't ask you. Lin Yu secretly laughed. Unexpectedly, his fire-bathing lotus still has the time to show light and heat. As long as he builds a sacred artifact of the dwarf race, he will be able to harvest a powerful dwarf craftsman, which is a surefire business. At the same time, a bolder idea also bred in his heart, which made him unable to help cheer up. So soon, he took the dwarves to ride on the demon king dragon and the demon concubine dragon and quickly flew to the direction of the great wild country. Along the way, the dwarf inevitably yelled again, but did not faint as before. Obviously, the creation of the dwarf's sacred relic made him more concerned. www.ManhwaRecap. Even this kind of fear can be resisted. And in conversation, Lin Yu also learned his name. Magnum Warhammer. The first name is in the front, and their clan surname is in the back. Among the dwarves, there are many different surnames and tribes, such as Warhammer, Dark Spear, Stone Fist, Bronzebeard, Dark Iron, etc. The tribe of dwarves is very large and spreads all over the continent. And the Warhammer tribe where Magna belongs is just a small branch of it. Today, the underground community inhabited by this small branch is gradually being invaded by the erupted magma, and I am afraid that it will be completely swallowed up in a short time. As a member of the tribe, McDunn naturally did not want to see his tribe perish. But the older generation of clan elders were unwilling to leave the foundation they had held for generations, so McDunn was kicked out. Along with many young dwarves who tried to persuade them to leave, they were thrown out. So what happened next? Have to say, Lin Yu's luck was really good, and he happened to encounter the turmoil in Tianyan Kingdom. Otherwise, if you usually go to the dwarves, I'm afraid they won't even let you in. But now that he has the initiative, he has to make good use of it. Thinking of this, let the plants speed up and fly back in the direction of the great wilderness. Soon, they crossed the mountains, rushed through the chasm, and entered the territory of the great wilderness. When he was about to return to Huangsha City, Magorn on the back of the demon concubine dragon suddenly let out a light hum. I can feel that there seems to be a strong fire breath under the mountain. Fire breath? Dwarves still have this ability? Lin You turned back in surprise. Now that his body has been strengthened to the 6th rank, his spirit is also extremely sharp, but he has not sensed anything unusual under the mountain range. Could it be that the dwarfs have other talents he doesn't know about? Human, you are doubting our dwarf's perception of flames. McGunn said dissatisfied. Most of the time, the dwarves live underground near the source of fire, and have a strong affinity for fire. Even if you are far away, you can feel the presence of the fire source. This is an innate talent. So in the face of Lin Yu's doubts, he would definitely refute them immediately. When Lin Yu heard this, he hurriedly gave a ha-ha, and then pointed to the front. Look, that's my territory. It's coming so soon? With surprise in his eyes, McGann looked in the direction Lin Yu pointed. When he saw the tree of life that was dozens of meters high, and the yellow sand city covered by a piece of green, his eyes widened even more. The strong aura of life is almost catching up with the periphery of the elf forest. Have you been to the Forest of Spirits? Lin Yu wondered, then immediately reacted, and asked, is there a forest of elves on this continent? McGunn glanced at him. What a fuss, you humans are not the only race on the primitive continent. Hurry up and take me to see that flame treasure, our time is running out. Come on, come with me. Lin Yu helplessly shrugged. Anyway, he is already determined that McGuinn is the future master craftsman in his territory. If you have any questions, you can ask them later. Can you still run away? Think about it. He took McGann across the city wall and landed in the yellow sand city. All the people who found him greeted him. Lord, you are back. Lord, did you just come back from going out? I have seen the Lord. These territorial people have long been accustomed to Lin Yu's plant troops. Although it was still a little terrifying to watch from a close distance, it was no longer as frightening as before, and everyone's face was filled with respect from the heart. It can be seen that you are a good lord who is loved by the people. Magneto stood beside Lin Yu, slightly surprised. In his mind, human lords are all mercenary, insidious, and cunning villains. It's hard to see a scene like this, supported and loved by so many people. How is it? Are you satisfied with the environment here? Lin Yu turned around and asked. Well, it's all right. McGann nodded. It's not bad to be able to build a city in such a place. There was one more thing he didn't say. That's because it's remote, it's just right for him who doesn't like to interact with people. If it were the prosperous cities in the principality, he would be conflicted. That's all. With the support of the people, the two came to the city and found Shuechang Gue, who was arranging for manpower to carry out the expansion task. After checking the progress, they rode the demon king dragon and flew to the territory again. During the flight, McGunn couldn't help but marvel at the plants around Lin Yu's territory. He didn't expect that there would be so many species of plants in Lin Yu's territory. It can be described as bizarre. But right away, his eyes were attracted by a red lotus flower in the territory, and he couldn't take it away. What a strong flame breath! McGann's eyes widened. One jumped to the ground, staggered to the hot lotus, stretched out his hand tremblingly, and his words of excitement were instructive. He excitedly looked back at Lin Yu. Human, how did you get this kind of thing? I got it by chance in a magma pool when I was out on an adventure. Lin Yu replied as he walked over. How is it? Can this thing work? It's only tier 6 now. The level of the fire-bathing lotus increases with the level of the territory. So there are only 6 levels at present. Hearing the name of the sacred artifact of the dwarves, he was a little worried that he would not be able to create it because the level was too low. It works. McGann nodded vigorously. Different from other equipment, the dwarf sacred artifact cannot be measured by ordinary grades. It is forged with 1,000 kinds of flame materials, representing the peak forging level of the dwarf clan, so it is called a sacred artifact. Only those who build the hammer of the god of war are qualified to become the king of our tribe. I have been preparing for this for more than 20 years, and now it is finally finished. In McGann's eyes, there was a frenzy that Lin You had never seen before. It is a love for forging that comes from the heart, a love that is not mixed with the slightest impurities. Lin You couldn't help but feel a little moved, and at the same time heaved a sigh of relief. You can use it. Do you want all of it or just a part of it? To be honest, the fire-bathing lotus is still very useful to him at 30 mana per hour. If you just use it to create things like this, you will inevitably feel a little distressed. Fortunately, McGwen only looked at the fire-bathed lotus for a while, and then said, "You don't need all of them, just the lotus seeds on it. That's where the flame essence is most concentrated. Fortunately, I just want lotus seeds. Treasures like the fire-baked lotus, as long as they draw enough energy, they can still grow lotus seeds again." So Lin You didn't waste any more time and let McGann pick it by himself. And McGwen was not polite to him, and picked all the lotus seeds and put them away. Okay, let's go back to the Principality of Tianyan now. All my materials are in the clan, and only there can I make the god of war's hammer with all my strength. Okay, I'll go talk to the people below. Having said that, the two left the territory, explained a few words to Shuichang, and left the territory again and flew to the direction of Tianyan Kingdom. Until nearly noon. They finally crossed the mountain desert and came to a huge mine deep in the volcanic area. In the distance, you can even see the entrance of a mine with dwarf warriors garrisoned, and the magma that has gradually spread all around. Stop. Who? Hearing a loud shout, the two dwarf warriors who were in charge of guarding the entrance took up their weapons and came up to them, posing as if they were fighting. "Agni, Bartom, it's me." McGunn quickly jumped off the back of the demon concubine dragon and came to the dwarf warrior. When the two of them saw McGann, they were stunned for a moment, and their eyes widened immediately. "Magna? Why are you back? Aren't you afraid of being discovered by the elders? The elders are now offering sacrifices in the tribe. If they find out, it will be bad. Go away." The two were clearly acquainted with McGann and had an excellent relationship. Knowing that he is a sinner, let him leave here immediately. But the next second, they found that Lin You, who was following behind McGann, suddenly sank. "Human? How can you be with a human, McGunn? Humans are not welcome here. Get out of here." In the blink of an eye, the two raised their weapons and pointed at Lin You. Seeing this, McGann hurriedly stood up to stop it. "Don't do this. He's my friend." "Friend? You actually made a friend with a human?" Suddenly, an old voice sounded at the entrance of the mine. Popular recommendation. This voice appeared extremely abruptly, interrupting the conversation of several people at once. When he turned around, he saw a dwarf on crutches appearing at the entrance of the mine, staring at them, especially Lin You. Recommendation: Mimi reading and chasing books is really easy to use. Download it here and you can try it. "Elder? Why did you come out?" The two dwarf warriors turned pale in shock, winked at Magna, and hurried up to meet him. But he didn't want to. McGwen stepped forward directly. "Father, the magma is about to devour our tribe. Please take the tribe out of here." "Father?" Lin You on the side was full of question marks. This magna is actually the son of the great elder of the dwarf tribe? This took him by surprise. "The son of the first elder, do you mean that you can drive it out casually? Is there another secret inside?" Lin Yu's mind is not as simple as that of Magna, and he immediately noticed the strangeness of the matter, and at the same time secretly looked at the elder of the dwarf clan. As predicted. In addition to the indifference, the first elder looked at McGunn's eyes, and there was a hint of helplessness and unbearableness. But immediately, he said angrily, "Nonsense. This is the foundation of our dwarf family for generations. How can you just leave? You have been kicked out of the tribe. Get out of here. Sinners are not allowed to enter here." After he finished speaking, he gave Lin You a deep look, then turned and left with the help of the other dwarves. No. Father, listen to me. Seeing him leave, McGann became anxious and yelled into the mine. If you continue to stay here, the clansmen will all die. However, no matter how he shouted, the great elder was unmoved and continued to walk into the cave. And the two dwarf warriors must not stop him and prevent him from approaching. McGann became even more anxious, seeing the great elder gradually disappearing from sight, and finally his face sank. Father! Let me in. I want to build the God of War's hammer. The 4 words hammer of the God of War seemed to have some kind of magic power. Whether it was the leaving great elder and the dwarfs beside him, or the 2 dwarf warriors who stopped him, their bodies instantly froze, and they looked at him in disbelief. Do you know what you're talking about? The elder said in surprise. I know. McGann gradually calmed down, then raised his fist above his head. I, Magnan Warhammer, swear in the name of Warhammer to build the hammer of the God of War and become the king of the Warhammer tribe. If I fail, I am willing to devote myself to the magma. The sonorous and powerful words spread to the ears of everyone present. Taking an oath in the name of a clan is definitely an oath of the highest standard, and there is no room for breaking it. Even the great elder and the other dwarves around were moved by his firm belief. And the dwarves have always had rules. Anyone who wants to build the hammer of the God of War must not stop it, because it represents the rise and fall of the tribe, and it also represents the will of the God of War. I saw the first elder staring closely at McGann, the expression on his face constantly changing, and the weather was uncertain. But in the end, he had no choice but to sigh. Okay, let them in. Obviously, he knew about McGann's collection of materials to build the hammer of war. There was even a hint of hope in his eyes. Lin Yu's sharp eyes caught this change, and he was even more sure of his guess. This big elder. I'm afraid it wasn't because of the troubles of the kin that McGann was driven out. And this conjecture was confirmed when he was allowed to enter the dwarf tribe with McGann. I saw that in the depths of the mine, in a huge community built around the lava, all were actually very old dwarves. Not even a young dwarf could be seen. What's going on? Where are the clansmen? Where have they all gone? McGann stared blankly at all this. Silly boy, you shouldn't have come back. The elder sighed. The young clansmen have been called away by me, and now we are the only old immortals left here, guarding the foundation of our Warhammer clan. How come? McGann's footsteps stopped. That's why, father, you made an excuse to drive me away. Speaking of which, McGann still didn't know the truth behind this, and his whole person suddenly felt bad. He felt deceived and felt extremely angry. Not because of being expelled from the tribe, but because the elders concealed him. These dwarfs of the older generation actually took away all the young people of the same clan, while they stayed behind and vowed to protect the last inheritance of the clan. How could he accept this? McGann, who learned the truth, of course didn't want to see such a thing happen, and suddenly looked at Lin You next to him. Human, I need your help to build the hammer of war with me. By now. There's no point in saying more. As long as he succeeds in forging the hammer of war, he can command all dwarves. At that time, even if you are strong, you must take these stubborn clansmen out of here. Only in this way, the dwarves below will obey his order and give up this homeland where they have lived for so long. We're here to help too. At this moment, the 2 dwarf warriors guarding the gate also ran in. There was even a large group of young dwarves around, and they all rushed back from the outside. And the number is more and more, constantly pouring into the mine. It looks like a dusty appearance. Elder, we are back. The elders forgive me, I still can't leave the tribe like this. I heard that McGann was going to build the God of War's hammer, and I rushed back immediately. Magn, I support you, you must become the king of our Warhammer tribe. What are you doing back here? The first elder pointed at them with hatred of iron and steel, and stomped the crutches in his hand in anger. McGann looked at him, the beard on his mouth finally raised after a long absence. Father, you should have nothing to say now, right? If I can successfully create the hammer of war god, You have to order everyone to move out of here with me. www.lightnovel.com. It can be seen that Manhwa is in the tribe. There are still many supporters out there. And they are also reluctant to abandon the same clan, abandoning the place where they have lived for so long. But it would be different if a dwarf king was born among them. As long as the dwarf king orders, they have to obey. At that time, these old guys won't be able to say anything else, whether they should move or move. Therefore, many hope that Manhwa can successfully create a sacred relic of the dwarves. It's really what the heart wants. In a blink of an eye, the dwarves in the entire mine began to get busy. Help Magorn build a fire, prepare materials, and vacate a forging table near the lava pool with a thick atmosphere. That's the highest honor. A blacksmithing table that can only be used by the dwarf king. Now surrounded by all the dwarves, McGregor stood up with the forging hammer, his expression unprecedentedly solemn. Standing in front of the stage for a while, he finally picked up a red-hot iron block and placed it on the stage. Then he shouted loudly, and suddenly swung the sledgehammer in his hand. Boom! 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 A heavy thumping sound continued to echo around the entire furnace. A few dwarfs next to them were vigorously blowing the bellows, and under the cry of Manhwa, the same materials were calcined and turned red, and they were integrated into the iron blocks on the stage. Every time the hammer fell, there was a bang, as if it hit their hearts. The expressions on all the dwarfs' faces gradually became tense. Together with Lin You, they were all staring at Manhwa's movements, for fear that he might make any mistakes. After all, this is about his future plans. If you're enjoying my content, please consider donating a coffee. Or checking out my shirts on TeePublic. Human. I need a few drops of your blood. I don't know how long it took, just when Manhwa was about to finish tempering and merging all the materials, he suddenly raised his head and shouted at Lin You, who was beside him. Lin You was shocked. Immediately separated from the crowd, took out a knife from the personal space to separate the fingers, and forced out a few drops of blood. At the same time, Manhwa's voice sounded again. To build the hammer of the god of war, you need the blood of divinity. Your lord is the messenger of the gods, and it is most suitable to use your blood. In other words, the best app for reading aloud and listening to books at present, Mimi Read, install the latest version. After he finished speaking, he grabbed Lin Yu's wrist and dripped the blood from his fingers onto the material that radiated hot light. Then he began to swing the sledgehammer desperately, making a booming sound. And the material on the forging table gradually shrinks under his continuous beating, and the impurities are discharged. Lin You couldn't understand this, but felt very shocked. Gradually, the forging hammer in Manhwa's hand became faster and faster. Even so fast that it is hard to detect with the naked eye. I don't know if it's an illusion. Lin You unexpectedly felt that there was a flame of fire that was gathering around him, and gathered towards the red material that was constantly changing shape on the forging table. Boom! There was another muffled sound, as if the entire furnace shook violently. I don't know if it has been thousands of times or tens of thousands of times. The shape of the hammer in front of Manhwa's eyes was finally completed, and it was finally at the most critical time of forming, so that the surrounding dwarves couldn't help but hold their breath and their eyes widened, for fear of missing a single bit. Boom! At this moment, a thunder suddenly exploded in the sky. Even the dark clouds in the sky began to gather quickly, surging wildly above the mine. Seeing this, the well-informed Great Elder trembled. It's the test of the of war. The test of the of war has come. The moment the sound fell, the giant hammer in front of Manhwa suddenly lifted into the air. Under the wrapping of a huge flame breath, he broke through the mountain, flew into the sky, and directly met the thunder and lightning that was brewing insanely in the sky. In an instant, lightning flashed. Lightning continuously fell on the giant hammer, forming a terrifying electrical grid in the air. All the dwarves, including Lin You, ran outside and looked at this scene very nervously. I saw that under the impact of those lightnings, the giant hammer stood still, as if there was only one thing in the world, magnificent and majestic. One after another thunder pattern also appeared, gradually covering the entire hammer body. Dash. Suddenly, the giant hammer made a wing ming. That wing ming turned into a wave of air, swept out in an instant, and shook the lightning all over his body, exuding an unparalleled power. Wait until the clouds clear. The giant hammer was also wrapped in the light of thunder and fire, and slowly floated towards Magorn below, and was grabbed by him. Success! The dwarves shouted excitedly. Even the great elder was trembling on crutches, tearful. I didn't expect that in my lifetime, I would be able to see the birth of the god of war's hammer. And it was made by his own son, and his eyes were both excited and gratified. Then, McGunn turned around and suddenly raised the hammer of war in his hand. Meet the dwarf king. In a blink of an eye, all the dwarves knelt down and worshipped him, with reverence written all over their faces. It is the most sacred relic of the dwarves. It is also a symbol of the blessing of the of war. Enough to subdue all warhammer dwarves. Even the elders standing at the front all knelt down and surrendered to McGann. McGunn, who was holding the hammer of war, blushed and was speechless with excitement. It was Lin You who was on the side reminding him to wink him, and he finally reacted. With a light cough, he said loudly to the dwarves below, "As the king of dwarves, I order you to move out of here immediately and go find a new home with me." King, where do you think we should move? There are erupting volcanoes everywhere, and there is no place for our warhammer tribe. A dwarf couldn't help but said. As soon as these words came out, the other dwarves around also started to talk about it. McGann, however, seems to have a plan. He hesitated for a moment and looked at Lin You next to him. "Human, I have a request. I want to bring my clansmen to live in your territory. In exchange, I can make my clansmen become you, the craftsman there, build equipment for your territory." "You sure?" Lin You said in surprise. He was just thinking about how to get all these dwarves to move to him for his use, but he didn't find a chance to speak, but Migrates asked him first. It was very sudden and extremely excited. Repeatedly promised, "Of course. You can bring as many people as you want, and I can let my plant dragon take you all there." "Thank you," Migrates said gratefully. He knew very well that if Lin You hadn't been with him all the time and helped him so much, he probably wouldn't have been able to successfully create the hammer of the god of war and get along the way. He also felt that Lin You was a very kind lord. At least kinder than any human he had ever met. With such lords, I believe that their dwarf tribes will also be valued and can live well in new places. By the way, I think you prefer to stay underground. I will open up another piece of land for you at that time." Lin You continued. However, McGuinn shook his head. "No, the fire breath I felt when I went to your side before should be an underground volcano. We just need to dig caves there." "Alright, if there is anything you need to tell me directly. This is a whole dwarf tribe, adding up to 2,000 or 3,000. It has to be treated well." Lin You didn't expect that he was just recruiting a dwarf craftsman, but he directly recruited all the dwarves. www.lightnovel.com. This is far beyond his expectations. At that time, with these dwarves, he can even create a huge forging empire. That scene, just thinking about it, makes me excited. Seeing that the sky was completely dark. He was not in a hurry to return to the great wilderness, but at the warm invitation of the dwarves, he temporarily lived in their cave. And Magnoon, who became the king of dwarves, discussed the relocation with his father and the elders. Thanks to the continuous eruption of nearby volcanoes, it covered up the vision created by the hammer of the god of war just now, and did not attract the prying eyes of other lords, allowing them to spend the night peacefully. In the blink of an eye, the next day came. As soon as the sky dawned, Lin You left the mining area with McGunn and more than 40 dwarves, and headed back to the great wilderness country. The demon king dragon and the demon concubine dragon are very large. It's no problem to carry a dozen or 20 dwarfs on him. After returning, he sent out the other 3 dragons, and he could pull more than 100 dwarves in one trip. Just need to run back and forth more than 20 times. Anyway, there is still some time before the magma floods the mine, so you can take your time and don't worry. just in time to help them dig underground volcanoes. As for the team, it is to give Lingxi to lead the team, and then bring 2 elf envoys to accompany him to heal and restore energy to the demon king, dragon, and concubine, which will be much safer. Just like that in flight. They soon returned to the territory of the great wilderness country and landed straight outside Huangsha City. And the eyes of those outside the city were all attracted. That's a dwarf. How can there be dwarfs in a place like this? It seems that the Lord brought it back. Didn't it say that dwarves don't like to associate with humans? How did they come to human territory? I heard that dwarves are very good at crafting equipment. Is it a friend of the Lord? Outside the city, the residents and passers-by were talking a lot, guessing the identities of those dwarves. After a while, Shuechangue and other stewards also hurried from the city, pushing through the crowd and coming to Lin You. Lord, may I ask this? Shuechangue looked at the more than 40 dwarves around Lin You in amazement. Especially the figure standing at the front, carrying a giant thunder and fire hammer, made him feel a sense of palpitations. This dwarf. It's not easy. Shuechangue immediately saw the extraordinariness of McGann. At this time, Lin You also looked at him. You came just right, let me introduce you. His name is Magorn, he is the king of the dwarves of the Warhammer tribe, and he is surrounded by his clansmen, and the Warhammer tribe will move to us in the future. They have come to live in the territory. You should arrange temporary accommodation for them first. What did you say? The dwarves are going to move to our territory to live? Shuechangue's eyes instantly widened to the extreme. I have always heard that the dwarves do not like to interact with humans. But what's the situation? These dwarves actually said they were going to relocate? Could it be that the Lord is still related to the dwarves? What shocked him even more was what Lin You said next. Yes, all of them are moved here. There are almost 3,000 dwarves. When the time comes, I will open up an underground kingdom for them in the nearby mountains. 3,000. Not only Shuechangue, but also the other stewards on the side were in an uproar. 3,000 dwarves. An entire tribe has moved in. Is their lord the messenger of the god of war? How could so many dwarves come to defect to him? Shocked, it took them a while to react, glanced at the dwarf behind Lin You, and responded repeatedly, okay, we'll go and arrange accommodation for them right away. That's a whole tribe of dwarves. No matter how stupid they are, they know the terrifying energy contained in it. It is even heard that there are many powerful practitioners who want to ask the dwarves to help build a weapon. But now, these dwarves actually want to live in their yellow sand city. How dare they be careless? Hurriedly called a group of lords, and began to build temporary residences for the dwarves outside the city. And this news, like a hurricane, it instantly spread throughout Huangsha City and beyond. What did you say? Are there dwarves coming to settle here in Huangsha City? Is the news confirmed? It shouldn't be wrong. Many people have seen it outside the city, and it is said that an entire dwarf tribe will move here. An entire tribe. How is this possible? Go. Let's go see too. Once the news spread, there was an uproar in the yellow sand field. All those who received the news ran out of the city one after another to find out the truth. No way, the forging level of the dwarves is famous. If the dwarves can help build their own equipment, their strength will definitely be greatly improved. Even if you sell it, the price is several times higher than other equipment. Even though sixth-order cultivators passing by are constantly inquiring about the news, hoping to catch up on the relationship of the dwarves. But unfortunately, in order not to affect the daily life of the dwarves, Lin You has strictly prohibited everyone from approaching their temporary residence, and even sent a large number of plants to guard the surrounding area, only for the residents who are responsible for building the residence. Let countless people sigh and sigh, they can only watch from a distance. And those territorial residents who were able to enter and leave the temporary residence also suddenly became the sweet pastry in the eyes of everyone. This is not. Shuechangue, who had arranged the construction task, just walked out of the temporary residence, and there was an anxious shout from the side. Lao Shui, wait a minute. Taking a closer look, it was Wei Gang who had been waiting there for a long time. Wei Gang, why are you here if you're not stationed in the city to train troops? Shui Changui stopped and looked puzzled. The book chasing app recommended to me by an old book friend who I have known for 10 years, Mimi read. It's so easy to use, I rely on this reading aloud to pass the time before driving and before going to bed, you can download it here. When he asked this, Wei Gang's expression suddenly became embarrassed. He rubbed his hands together, and whispered a little embarrassedly, so what, didn't the Lord recruit a lot of dwarfs back? Can you help me ask, can they help me build a piece of equipment? You're looking for me just for this? Shui Changui glanced at him. Otherwise, what else can I do? This is a big deal. Now only you can go inside. You should know something, right? How do I know this? If you want to build equipment, ask the Lord yourself whether he agrees or not. Looking at Wei Gang, who was thirsty, Shui Changui only thought it was very funny. The commander-in-chief of the dignified Huangsha city actually secretly wanted to ask the dwarves to help build equipment, and he was not afraid of being laughed at when he said it. Do not. Seeing him say that, Wei Gang suddenly became anxious. We are old acquaintances. Now the Lord does not let everyone except you approach those dwarves. If I ask, he will have to rip my skin off. Since you know, why are you still running here? If the Lord hears that you have left without permission, it will be considered light to deduct your wages. Shui Changui threatened. Okay, can't I just leave? You must not tell the Lord. As soon as he heard that he was going to be punished, Wei Gang panicked and hurried back to the city. And when he left, he didn't forget to add, Old Shui, remember to help me find out about the equipment, and I'll invite you to drink at that time. After saying that, he ran away. Shui Changui looked at his rapidly disappearing back, shook his head helplessly, ignored him, and continued to work on his own affairs. That's all. The news of the dwarves appearing in Huangsha City was spread by word of mouth, and it became known to everyone in the blink of an eye. Even many practitioners who passed by the surrounding cities received the news and came here because of their name, all wanting to ask for the equipment made by the dwarves. Only one day. The entire Huangsha City has become more lively than before, and even the daily revenue has doubled. But now Lin You was busy with the relocation of the dwarves, so he didn't even bother to pay attention to it. This is not. Just after he explained about the temporary residence, he brought Magorn and a group of dwarves to the mountain where he felt the breath of flames and began to investigate. After all, the forging of the dwarves relies on the fire of the earth. It is naturally much better for them to have a stable source of fire. It should be right here, on a bare hillside. McGann pointed to his feet and said. I can feel that there is a very huge fire breath underneath, it should be a sleeping volcano. Okay, then let's dig. Do I need to blow up the mountain? In order to facilitate the excavation, Lin You even brought the Mushroom Demon King. No, digging caves requires a lot of attention, especially this kind of caves close to volcanoes. It should not cause too much damage, otherwise it is easy to collapse. Also, if the volcano erupts, it will be bad, then you are responsible for the excavation, and I will arrange for some people to help carry the stone. Okay, sorry to trouble you. McGuinn said gratefully. Immediately afterwards, the excavation work of the cave unfolded in a mighty manner, and one after another figure was busy in the mountains. And over time, more and more dwarves arrived in Huangsha City and gradually joined the excavation team. In the blink of an eye, 3 days have passed. During these 3 days, the relocation of the dwarves and the excavation went very smoothly. And on the morning of the 4th day, the last group of dwarves finally arrived in Huangsha City, which made Lin You heave a sigh of relief. Next, just dig up the underground volcano, create a tribe, and let the dwarves settle down. It's done. The cave is dug through. At this moment, the dwarves cheered from the cave. Lin You, who was still standing at the entrance, only felt a scorching wave of air blowing towards his face, forcing him to take a few steps back. When the heat wave dissipated, he hurried into the cave, to the deepest point. Sure enough, seeing the dwarves surrounding a surging lava pool, they cheered. And the magma pool is just on the edge of the cave, flowing slowly. The dwarves also excavated a huge stepped cavity around it to block the magma from flowing into the cave, and left a lot of places on the side for placing furnaces and anvils. The superb excavation skills made Lin You, a layman, have to admire. If it was him, it is estimated that the place would have collapsed long ago. Lin You, come and see our newly excavated underground forge. When McGann among the dwarfs found Lin You, he immediately greeted him with joy. At this time, McGowan had clearly experienced 3 days of continuous digging, but he was still in high spirits and not at all tired. After all, this is the new home of the dwarves opened up under his leadership, and it is inevitable to be a little excited. Even the dwarves of the older generation nodded silently with tears in their eyes. It seems to have accepted this place by heart. Lin You glanced around the empty space and said, "You can't bring your tools, because they are too heavy. I'll send someone to get you some new ones later." Also. McGuinn nodded, "But we need to build some tools ourselves. I wonder if you have our veins here." In other words, the best app for reading aloud and listening to books at present, Mimi Read, install the latest version. Of course, there are almost all the places where the mountains are deeper. When you have time in the future, you can dig a passage directly there, which will be much more convenient. Really? McGunn's eyes lit up. With underground volcanoes and mineral veins surrounded, the conditions here are much better than he imagined. The thought that I was still a little worried about was suddenly swept away. Okay, then I will lead the tribe to dig through the mine. After everything is set up, I can build as much equipment as you want. Haha, I'm just waiting for your words. At that time, I want all the guards under me to put on new equipment, and the quality should not be too bad. Poor quality? You are doubting the forging ability of our dwarves. McGunn said, blowing his beard and staring. If someone else dared to say such words to the dwarves, it is estimated that they would have been killed by a hammer on the spot. After all, forging is the life of the dwarves, and there is no room for others to question. That's why Lin You has a good relationship with him and has a big favor to him, so he just talked about it. Of course Lin You also knew that this guy didn't take it to heart, he was just joking. After chatting about the next plan again, and meeting the needs of the dwarves, he left directly, and at the same time explained that the people under him had nothing to disturb the dwarves, so as not to cause any conflicts. Back to the territory, it is noon. Lin You slowly came to the Tree of Life to check the collection of resources, after several days of collection. Both iron ore and copper ore have reached more than 1,500, and stone is more than 3,000, which is enough to raise one of the buildings to the 6th level. Considering that the craftsman problem had been resolved, he called out the blacksmith shop interface and chose to upgrade. In an instant, the light flashed continuously, and the second-order blacksmith shop was directly upgraded to the 6th order by him. Building name, blacksmith shop, subordinate territory. Building level, level 6. Building function, improve the efficiency and success rate of equipment creation. Building efficiency, 60%. Success rate, 6%. Daily consumption, 3,200 mana. Required for upgrade, 1,500 wood, 1,500 stone, 750 iron ore, 750 copper ore, 3,000 magic energy. Tier 6 Blacksmith Shop. Not only has the area become much larger, but even the number of build positions has become 6. At that time, as long as he asks McGann for a few dwarves to support the facade, build some equipment and sell it, won't the magic energy flow into his pocket? In contrast, the daily consumption of 3,200 mana is not worth mentioning at all. At that time, he can also use the popularity of the shop to sell the enchanted scrolls made by the magic tower in the blacksmith shop, and make a lot of money. Okay, that's it. The more Lin You thought about it, the more feasible it was. He immediately called out the magic tower interface, and used the remaining materials to raise the magic tower to the 4th level, adding a lot of enchantment options. and they are all 4-level enchantments with stronger effects. Although the number of 6th order practitioners in Huangsha City has increased a lot compared to before, in general, the 4th and 5th order practitioners are the most. Level 4 enchantment is just an item that is just needed, and it will definitely be sought after by many people. After a brief review, Lin You selected 3 enchanting scrolls as the main ones. Level 4 sharpness increases the weapon's attack power by 10%, only effective for weapons below level 4. These 3 enchanting attributes are the most basic and most practical attributes. Regardless of attack defense or movement speed, they all play a vital role in battle. A small difference, 1,000 miles lost. It can even save lives in critical moments. Without thinking too much, Lin You directly chose these 3 to start production. Yu reading www.yuyukansha.com. To make level 4 sharp requires 4 wood, 40 magic powder, and 400 magic energy. Fortunately, there are not many materials needed. And before the magic powder, he also left a little, just enough to make a dozen scrolls. As for the extra 4 units of wood, it is estimated that it is the raw material of paper for making scrolls, which is really convenient. Sure enough, it is good to have a system. If it is made by cultivators, there will be a risk of failure. Without hesitation, choose to make directly. Swish! The light flashed, and a scroll with the imprint of the sword appeared in his hand, and there was an obscure magical atmosphere around him. Lin You researched it, and the method of use is very simple. As long as you open the scroll, release the magic mark inside, and integrate it into the weapon, even if the enchantment is successful, it is really convenient. Subsequently, he made 3 more enchanting scrolls each, and then looked at another enchanting effect that he liked. 4th level wind slash, add the skill blast slash to the weapon, release all the energy to cut a powerful wind blade. The power is equivalent to the full strength strike of the 4th order peak, it needs to be recharged, and it is only valid for weapons below the 4th order. Required for manufacturing, 8 wood, 80 magic powder, 800 magic energy. This enchantment, the effect is different from the 3 just now, it is a skill enchantment. And the effect is extremely powerful, the full blow of the 4th order peak. As long as this skill exists, it is equivalent to an additional means of life-saving. And its production material is also very high, which is twice as much as the basic enchantment. However, considering its powerful effect, Lin You decided to make one and sell it for a try. If the response is good, it can be mass-produced. 1 skill enchantment, plus 9 basic enchantments, just used up Lin Yu's remaining magic powder. With these 10 scrolls and a few 7th order plants, Lin You left the territory and rushed to Huangsha City. Unexpectedly. At this time, outside the blacksmith shop, many practitioners have gathered. It seems that they were all attracted by the light of the upgrade of the blacksmith shop, and they pointed and whispered from a distance. After all, it was no secret that there were dwarves in Yellow Sand City. Some powerful cultivators came from other places one after another to find out. Lin You even found 2 7th order practitioners in the crowd. It seems that the attraction of equipment is still very huge for practitioners. Lord, you are here. Wei Gang, who was taking the lead in maintaining order, quickly found Lin You and immediately greeted him with a few subordinates. The few who followed him were all 6th order cultivators who had recently joined Huangsha City and were temporarily led by him. Seeing Lin You appear, they stood up straight and looked very nervous. How is it? Is the situation in the city okay these days? Lin You asked, casually. It's okay. Wei Gang replied, but recently, many practitioners and businessmen have come from other places, which has increased the pressure of order maintenance, so I took them to patrol the streets. It's hard work. Lin You nodded at him. It's not hard, this is what subordinates should do. Wei Gang grinned. Then he scratched his head, glanced around, and then looked at Lin You again, looking a little hesitant, and even a little twisted. What, Lord, I have something. I don't know if I should ask. What's the matter? Tell me. Lin You said lightly. That, didn't you bring back a lot of dwarves? My subordinates heard that dwarves are good at crafting equipment, so I want to ask them to help me build a shield. Do you think, can't you do it? Wei Gang said hesitantly, and at the same time looked at Lin You cautiously, for fear of being reprimanded by him. When Lin You saw this, he was suddenly amused. It was for this kind of thing. However, considering Wei Gang's hard work in maintaining order these days, he said, it can be done, but it will take a while until they settle down. Really? Wei Gang suddenly became excited. Of course it's true. At that time, I will ask them to help build some low-level weapons and armors to distribute to the guards, and their tattered equipment should also be replaced. In Lin Yu's heart, he was always thinking about the tattered equipment worn by the guards. There were no conditions before, and standard equipment could not be mass-produced. It's different now. With dwarf craftsmen, as long as there is enough ore, you can create a lot of basic equipment and replace them all. Otherwise, he always wears the old equipment that I don't know how many years ago, how much he loses his share. Thinking of this, Lin You turned to look at the practitioners behind Wei Gang. There are also a few of you. Since you have joined Huangsha City, I, Lin You, will not treat you badly. When you have time, go to register with Director Shui, and then I will give you a unified set of 6th order equipment. Yes. Thank you, Lord, for the cultivation. Several cultivators immediately stood up straight and said excitedly. Tier 6 equipment can't be bought anywhere. Even if they could buy it, it would almost cost them half of their savings, and most people really couldn't make it. This Lin Yu distributed a set to everyone as soon as he came up. No wonder they were so excited, and they were extremely grateful for their choice to join Huangsha City. Let it go, let it go. Just then, a sudden cry from a distance interrupted their conversation. What happened? Lin Yu raised his head, suspiciously looking in the direction of the commotion. Before Wei Gang and the others could answer, he saw McGorn carrying his war hammer on his back, with a few clansmen appearing on the street and rushing towards them. Lin Yu, I have found you. Why are you here? Aren't you digging a cave with your tribe? Lin Yu asked in surprise. The cave is almost dug, and it's just a matter of expansion. Didn't you say that your smithy lacks craftsmen? So I brought a few clansmen over to help, didn't I bother you? McGunn said with a frown, as if he didn't like being surrounded by so many people, but he didn't forget what he promised Lin Yu, and brought 5 clansmen here. Of course I don't bother, and you came just in time. My blacksmith shop has just been upgraded and is short of many people. By the way, how many blacksmiths are they? Lin Yu asked, curiously. Don't worry, every adult member of our Warhammer tribe has reached the forging level of tier 6 or above, and it is enough to deal with you here. McGuinn said arrogantly. So smart? Lin Yu was really surprised now. He knew that the forging talent of the dwarves was very strong, but he did not expect it to be so strong. Every adult dwarf has a forging level of tier 6 or above. What is the concept? There are 3,000 dwarves, nearly half of the 6th order craftsmen. And it's only the lowest level 6. Saying so. Didn't Magnan, who represents the highest forging level of the Warhammer tribe, reach a very terrifying level? Shocked, Lin Yu immediately asked the doubts in his heart. Are you talking about me? In the face of his question, McGuinn didn't hide it, and replied directly, the sacred objects of the dwarves are blessed by the of war. As long as you can get the materials, I can make you into what you want. The equipment you want, no matter what level. There was a strong confidence in his words. That is the confidence in the sacred relics of the dwarves, and also the confidence in his forging level. This is what you said, then I have to find you to build a set of equipment. Of course, as long as it is your equipment, I will personally build it for you, and you will definitely be satisfied. Okay, that's it. Lin Yu had seen McGunn's forging level with his own eyes. It is much more powerful than his standard equipment. After collecting enough high-level materials in the future, he will be able to create a set of high-level equipment for himself, and there will be more life-saving means at that time. In a good mood, he didn't stay on the street anymore. Take a few dwarves into the blacksmith shop, familiarize yourself with the environment, and arrange for them a few craftsmen in the territory to start to build equipment. And this news quickly spread in the city, attracting countless merchants to cultivate and flock to the blacksmith shop, which instantly filled the entire blacksmith shop. This made the shopkeeper in charge of the front desk very busy. In the end, Shuichangui had to urgently dispatch additional staff, which was finally relieved. In other words, the best app for reading aloud and listening to books at present, Mimi Read, install the latest version. Look! There are actually enchanted scrolls for sale here. Soon, a cultivator wandering around the shop found several scrolls in the counter and exclaimed. At the bottom of the scroll, the level and effect of the scroll are also marked, attracting countless practitioners to watch. It turned out to be a 4th level sharp enchantment. I've wanted this for a long time. There are still 4 levels of persistence and lightness, but only 800 magic crystals. This is the skill enchantment of Gale Slash. Hi, 1600 magic crystals? So expensive. Expensive? These things are not so easy to see, shopkeeper, give me one. In less than 10 minutes, 10 scrolls were snapped up by the swarms of practitioners and merchants, and even the blasting skill enchantment was quickly sold. Lin You, who had just returned to the territory, was stunned when he heard the prompt. He has already doubled the price, yet he still sells it so fast. He calculated the cost. Leaving aside the wood, the price of magic dust per unit is 5 mana, and it takes 600 mana to make a tier 4 basic scroll. He sold 800, and he could make a net profit of 200, and the skill enchantment earned 400 mana. It's a surefire deal. Immediately, he called Su Zhong and asked him to help buy a large amount of magic powder from those businessmen. As long as there is enough magic powder, he can earn a steady stream of magic energy. Getting rich is just around the corner. After all, in the nearby cities, it is estimated that he only has the building of the magic tower. A fool would give up such an excellent business opportunity. So it didn't take long for a new batch of enchanting scrolls to appear in the blacksmith's shop, and it was also clearly marked, and each enchantment was limited to 10 per day. This is also a strategy of Lin You to control output. After all, the proliferation of consumables like enchanting scrolls will only quickly reduce its price. And magic powder is not like ore, it can be easily obtained. Even in the hands of those passing merchants, the stock is very limited. If he buys it out, it will only increase the price of magic powder, which is not worth the loss. It is just right to put 20 or 30 scrolls a day. Now that the blacksmith problem is solved, it's time to improve the efficiency of other buildings. Lin You took a look at the sky, and it was still dark for half a day, so he rode the Demon King Dragon and went into the city to see the condition of the farm. After this period of feeding, the mother's 3rd-order tusk wild boar has successfully conceived, but if it wants to give birth to cubs to expand the scale, I am afraid it will be difficult to do it in a short time. It seems that we need to get a few more breeding pigs back. Think about it. He left Huangsha City with the Demon King Dragon and a few faster plants, hurried to the Gobi direction, and searched around the periphery. It was not until it was getting dark that he rushed back to the city with the breeding pig he had just caught. Good luck this time. Under the carpet-like search of the plants, he caught a total of 11 breeding pigs, which enriched the farm. 13 breeding pigs should be enough for initial breeding. The only thing left to do next is to raise the feedlot to tier 6 to improve the efficiency of cultivation. I believe that it will not be long before we can officially supply meat to the city. As for the crops outside the city, they are also growing rapidly under the blessing of the new holy relics. It should not be a problem to solve the food problem of the current population growth. The entire Huangsha city is thriving and gradually developing towards the forest capital that Lin You envisioned, which still makes him very satisfied. Someday, he wants to build a forest-covered country, and even make the entire continent covered in green. Lin You was full of pride, fantasizing about these unrealistic pictures. But immediately, he shook his head mockingly, throwing away these messy thoughts. Seeing that the sky had turned completely dark, he rushed back to the territory. The following few days. Lin, you are busy building the territory. time flies. In a blink of an eye, 10 days have passed. After all the calculations, Lin You has been to the primitive continent for a month and a half. In the major principalities, I don't know how many lords have passed away, and I don't know how many new lords have come. Everything seemed to be normal, with few splashes and nothing remarkable. But today is for Lin You. The meaning is completely different. Because after this period of accumulation, his value-added arms and experience finally reached full value. And not one, but a full 55. Also the first batch of recruits. Congratulations, the experience of the Pink Enchantress has reached the full value, and the conditions for upgrading to the 7th rank are met. Do you want to upgrade? Congratulations, the Overlord Piranha's experience has reached the full value, and the 7th order upgrade requirements are met. Do you want to upgrade? In other words, the best app for reading aloud and listening to books at present, Mimi Read, install the latest version. Congratulations, Armored Moss. Early in the morning, a series of prompts kept ringing in Lin Yu's mind. He, who was still sleeping, was awakened instantly, and hurriedly ran down the tree house to the ground. I saw that under the prompting of a sound, the main bodies of the 55 proliferating arms were all wrapped in light, and even the split bodies beside them lit up with a faint light. All upgrades. Lin You responded excitedly, he had been waiting for this day for too long. In an instant, the rays of light on these arms exploded, and their bodies began to grow rapidly. One after another, the Pink Enchantress has advanced into one of the 3 branches of Banshee. The wood spirits flying in the air have also randomly evolved into fairy or elf servants, and their appearance has changed dramatically. But what Lin You cared about the most was the 7th order arms that he had never seen before, such as another branch of the twin mushroom. A poisonous mushroom with a height of more than half a person, with a gray smell exuding from the whole body. Name, Plague Mushroom. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Power, 695. Physique, 800. Agility, 800. Spirit, 872. Skills, Infinite Proliferation, Exploding Mushrooms, Fission, Plague Poisonous Mushrooms, throw out poisonous mushrooms containing plague, and after the explosion, spread a highly infectious and terrifying plague around, devour the enemy's vitality, and reduce attributes. Introduction: the poisonous mushrooms, covered in plague, have a strong ability to kill groups. Don't approach them easily. Another example is the 2 advanced forms of Dryad Generals. A huge tree spirit with a body that is several times taller and has a copper-walled and iron-boned body. And a tree of harmony with lush foliage, surrounded by flowers and birds. Name, Ancient Tree of War. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 890. Physique, 890. Agility, 775. Spirit, 775. Skills, Infinite Proliferation, Savage Charge, Sweeping Thousands of Armies, War Trample, Crazy Trampling on the Ground. www.mtnovel.com, destructs all surrounding enemies. Introduction: a huge ancient tree born for war, charging into battle and tearing up the enemy's defense line. It is the most solid shield and forward in war. Name, Natural Ancient Tree. Race, Plant. Level 7, 0/2500. Strength, 775. Physique, 890. Agility, 775. Spirit, 890. Skills, Infinite Proliferation, Savage Clash, Sweeping Thousands of Armies, Prosperity, Summon the Dryad to assist in battle. The attribute is half of the body, unlimited number, lasts 7 minutes. Introduction: an ancient tree that is good at communicating with nature, and is good at summoning tree demons to fight. When the level reaches a certain level, one tree can conquer thousands of troops. A dryad who has risen to the 7th rank. It also has 2 branches. War Old Trees and Nature Old Trees. A group attack, a group call. As if he was born for war, Lin Yu's front row strength has been greatly improved. What surprised Lin You the most was the number of natural ancient trees summoned. There is no limit to the quantity. That is to say, as long as its power of nature recovers fast enough, it will continuously recruit tree demons to join the battle, and it will last for 7 minutes. Even if the attributes are only half, it is extremely terrifying. Thank you for watching Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share and subscribe. Have a great day.